Hi everyone, my name is Kimberly, and this is Ladrina. Welcome to Know, Learn and Grow, presented by First Five Forever, Cairns Regional Libraries and Little Sparrows Speech Therapy. So let me introduce us. So we are both speech pathologists from Little Sparrows Speech Therapy here in Cairns. We work with children and adults who have communication delays or disorders and disabilities. So today we're going to go across a little bit about us, which we've just covered, some developmental milestones for children from 0 to 5 years, some tips on how to help your child's development, and at the end we'll be happy to answer any questions and answers, so please free to submit them while we're going through the presentation. So first we'll go through what does a speech pathologist do. So we assess, diagnose and treat, and we do that on quite a few different areas. So the first one is speech sounds, and that's the one that most people think of when you think of a speech pathologist. That's the sounds we actually use to build words. And it's probably one of the most common things that we work on. The next thing is language. Now that refers to how we use words and how we build them and put them together to build a message. We then work on our social skills. So that's when and where to use words in a social situation and what not to do and what to do. We also work on literacy, so your reading and writing, and that also includes your spelling as well. We work with voice, which means improving the quality of your voice. So some people have a husky voice, some people have a rough voice, some people's voices stop working altogether, and that's when you would come to see us. We also work on something called fluency, and that refers to the flow of your words. So that's most commonly a stutter for a speech pathologist. And not many people know, but we also work on swallowing and feeding. So that includes your picky eaters or something called dysphagia, which means that your swallowing function has become impaired. So we're going to go through a couple of different topics this morning, but the main ones will cover these areas. And we thought we'd go through this first just to help you guys understand where we're going to be going with your child's development. So the first main area that we have when we communicate is receptive language. So that's our ability to receive a message and understand the message that has been received. We then use expressive language. So that's our ability to build a message and put it out so it can be understood by someone else. So these two areas are super important. So if we don't have receptive language, we can't receive a message. If we don't have expressive language, we can't put out a message to someone else. We then have our speech sounds. So these are the sounds that come together to actually build a word. And when we're building these words, that allows us to be understood by other people. We then have our literacy skills, and that's our ability to read, write, and spell. And this includes understanding individual letters and their sounds, which will be important for your kids in this age group.
Now, milestones, what to expect when in your child's development. From 0 to 3 months, your child should be able to turn their heads towards your voice or the sound they've heard. So for example, if you walk into a room and your little baby is lying in their cot or on the bed, they should be able to localize the sound, turn their heads towards you talking. They should also smile, and they will quiet down when they hear a sound of voice to show that they're interested. You will also notice that their vocalizations will change for different needs. So as a parent, I think it's quite common to pick up on a cry that shows that they're hungry or a tired cry. And you know, as you go, you'll notice that they're both quite distinct. They will also begin to coo and smile, which is the very cute phase. And they will also make 2 or more speech sounds. So little oohs and ehs throughout the day. At this stage, they will also begin to make eye contact with whoever is standing directly in front of them. They will also begin to show interest in faces, especially with mum or dad or brother or sister, the common ones that you have in your family. And they will also begin to recognize your primary caregivers. So this, in most cases, would be mum, dad, grandma, granddad, whoever is important in your child's life. From 3 to 6 months, they will also begin to react to sudden noises or sounds. So anything that is loud, they might jerk or they might turn their head towards that sound. They also like to be spoken to. So as much as you can't have an adult conversation with kids at that stage, they really do enjoy that communication and that interaction that they have with the adults around them or their little siblings. And you will also notice that they also begin to laugh at this stage, which is very, very adorable. It's one of my favorite stages. They will continue to maintain the eye contact with whoever is standing directly in front of them. And they will also enjoy and respond to play really well. So things like peekaboo, they will show interest in. And some parents might have noticed that when their child is at this stage, if they're grabbing something in their hand, it might be a bit tricky to get it off them, and they will not be very happy if that happens.
So from 6 to 9 months, when it comes to your child's communication skills, they can recognize the sound of their own name. So if you call their name, they should turn their head towards it. They'll look at familiar people or objects when they're named. So if you name mum or dad or a sibling's name, they should be able to find that person by turning their head in the room. And they should be able to name sort of similar objects, usually bottles and things like that are very common to them at this age. They can follow some routine commands when they're paired with a gesture. So that means when you use your hands as well to communicate. So up for up and things like that. So very simple things at stage, and they'll begin to make repetitive sounds. So this is when you'll start to hear ma, 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 ba, 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 and da, da, da. With their social skills from 6 to 9 months, they'll start to enjoy games like peekaboo. So they'll really enjoy games where they get to take turns with you, whoever is their main caregiver. They'll take turns vocalizing with others. So it'll sound like you can have a conversation with them at this age. So you'll say something and they might coo back to you or make one of those ma, 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 ba, ba, ba sounds back. And you can usually go back and forth, and they thoroughly enjoy these games at this age. And it's a really good step towards them taking turns when they communicate with you when they're a little bit older. They'll begin to feed themselves. They'll make a big mess of it, but they will begin to feed themselves, and that's an important step for them as well. They'll be able to react to themselves in the mirror, which is lovely to watch, and they will show fear around strangers as well. So someone that they're not familiar with, they will begin to cling to you and show fear at this age as well.
By 12 months by their first birthday, they should be able to say at least 2 clear words. And this can be really simple words that, they see every day and they look at every day. So things like mum, dad, car, bed, teddy, up. They should also continue to babble, and this will resemble sounds and rhythms of speech. So pretend they will sound like they're having a conversation with whoever is talking to them at that point. They will also continue to babble to themselves, which is very cute, very entertaining to watch sometimes. And they will also begin to use simple gestures and actions, such as waving bye-bye when you leave a place, putting their hands up if they want to be picked up. They should also begin to point to things that they want. So common ones are, they will point to their milk bottle if they're hungry. They will point to a bird that they see outside. They will point to the bed if they're feeling tired. They should also begin to shake their head to indicate no, which is a very important one for a child at that age. And they will also begin to understand gestures such as no and bye-bye. Socially, they should be beginning to develop joint attention. And joint attention is so important as a building block for later communication skills, because it sort of teaches your child that if I'm looking at something, I want my child to be looking at it too. And that is, again, important to building that understanding of the world around them as well. And they also should begin to initiate affection, which is running up to you for cuddles and kisses, and can't get enough of that. By 2 years, they should be able to follow 2-step instructions. So that's things like go to your room and get your shoes. And they should also be able to point to named objects. So things around the house, like your chair, table, teddy, TV, things outside, flowers, bed, sky, that sort of thing. They should also begin to enjoy singing nursery rhymes, and they should be able to say about 20 to 50 words clearly. They should also begin to combine these words together to form two-part sentences. So if they see a car, they might say, oh, big car, or my juice, no teddy, for example, and begin to name simple body parts like eyes, nose, mouth, ears, hair. And they should also begin to use words like mine and no, which is, at 2 years old, I need to assert myself and put my opinion out there, which is perfectly fine. They should also begin to say sounds in words that require your lips to touch together, like your p, b, in mum, for example, and other sounds like t, and da. So these are your earliest developing sounds. Socially, they should begin to play games with others. So simple things like peekaboo, and they should enjoy sitting and looking at books together with you. Obviously, at this age, they wouldn't be able to read the words in the book, but they will enjoy looking at the pictures, touching the book, feeling the book, turning the pages, or trying to turn the pages. They show early imaginative play. So a common one in girls is when they put their teddy to sleep or feed their baby doll. And boys, usually it's, rolling a car down your table and saying boom, crash, beep, all the fun language that comes along with playing with cars. They should begin to play side by side with their peers or siblings, and they should start to help with really simple dressing routines, like putting their shoes on and try to put a shirt on, and with simple tasks around the house as well. So they will try and wipe a table, may not be very efficient, but they're trying anyway.
So some things you can do for this age group for your 0 to 2 years to help grow their speech and language. Now, these are some really simple things, but they're often some things that we get lost when we're really busy in our daily routine, where we've got to get those dishes done, we've got to do the grocery shopping. But this is stuff that we can do throughout our entire day, and it will really help your child's development. So making sure that your child can see your face when you're talking. Now, that is number one. It helps them see how you're making the words. It helps them with eye contact. It helps them read your facial expressions. So we suggest with this one, get down to your child's level. Sit down with them on the floor. If they can see your face and it's not as far away, then that is the best thing you can do for your child. You'll notice that your child reacts a lot better as well when you do that. Encourage your child to make a variety of sounds as well. So you can really have fun with this. So like Ladrina was saying before, with cars, boom, crash, vroom, all of those things, even with the baby dolls, wah, all of those lovely sounds, the kids will really respond to those sounds as well. They think they're really funny, shh, to put baby to sleep, but they also practice a variety of sounds in really simple ways. So they're really fun to do. So we encourage you guys to really do that one. Copy their facial expressions and their vocalizations, particularly in the beginning as well. If you do that, they sort of realize that you're copying them. They'll attempt to do it again in return, and it's a really fun exchange that you guys can build. Communicating is a back and forth that you do, and if you can establish that nice and early with your child, it will be wonderful. So encourage your child to copy your actions as well. So we don't just talk with our voices. We very much talk with our hands. It's something we do every day. We talk with our bodies as well. We can usually tell from afar as an adult how the person is feeling. So it's really important to help your child with that from the very beginning. And you can do that by simple things like clapping and waving and doing actions to songs in the beginning. And that will help them learn to use their hands to communicate as well. And another huge one, doesn't matter what age of your child is, talking about what you're doing during your daily routines is so important. It gives them an opportunity to attach what you're saying to your everyday life. So this is probably one of your most important ones. So that can be your grocery shopping. You're going to put the cereal in the trolley. We're going to get 3 apples and put them in the bag. Now we're going to put them in the trolley. So it doesn't have to be just a set opportunity you set aside every day to communicate with your child. Do this every day. When you're putting the clothes on the line, we're pegging up the pants, peg on, cutting the vegetables in the kitchen. Is it a vegetable? Is it a fruit? We have to cook it. What are we going to do to it? Have that conversation all day long, and you'll find your child will join you in it. And at this age, from 0 to 2, we don't expect them to know all their colors or to be able to count, but we begin to introduce them to these concepts, and you'll be surprised at how quickly they can pick these things up at this age. So naming the colors of things for them, counting items when you go along, saying 1, 2, 3 apples in the bag, and will be an absolute wonderful strategy for your child. Now, another really big one is giving your child time to respond. Now, this one might feel a little strange, but even stepping back for 30 seconds, so counting to 30 in your head, giving your child that opportunity to exchange and give you their response will be huge, and that builds that back and forth that they need when they are learning to build their communication for the first time. Sometimes it takes a little bit to think of the word that they might be looking for. So giving them that time and space. And that includes time with siblings. So if you notice that you've got a sibling that will talk straight for your child, encourage them to give them space as well. Follow your child's lead. So this means picking what your child is interested in. So if your child loves trucks, or if they like dinosaurs, or if they are into having tea parties, stop and take the time to do those things and talk about what they're doing while they're doing it. That will be huge. We'll know as an adult, if we're more interested in something, we're way more likely to learn about it. Your child is no different. They're just a little person. Expand on your responses as well. So this is a really big one. So if your child is at the stage where they're saying a single word, say car, add another word to it when they say. So if they point to a car, you can say big car, or red car, or dirty car. If your child is saying 2 words, then you can add a 3rd word for them. And that would be really helpful for them to learn how to build and expand on their sentences. So when it comes to, so we say pre-literacy skills here because they aren't reading yet. That doesn't mean they're not learning the amazing fundamentals of how important books are and all the things they can learn about them from this age. So we suggest you start books from the very beginning. There's no harm in reading a book to your child. In fact, like we were saying, they'll love hearing your voice. So let them touch, feel, explore the book. If it gets a little damaged, it's not the end of the universe. They've explored, they've learned. It takes time to learn to turn a page without damaging it. All of those things, let them explore and enjoy. It doesn't matter if they read just the last page. It doesn't matter if you read the book upside down to begin with. As long as you guys are engaging in the same task together, it's not a big deal. Use sturdy books, having said that though, for longevity, and ones that are tactile. So if they have colorful pieces or even little rubber bits that they can touch and feel, that will help them stay engaged for even longer. From this age group, you start by just naming the pictures. So, oh, cat, dog, and adding in some of the sounds that those animals make would be wonderful as well. And then sort of as they grow towards the 2 years of age, you can start adding some describing words with your original name as well.
By 3 years, we should expect your child to be able to follow simple 3-step instructions. So things like go to your room, get your shoes, and, get your bag. They should be able to be understood most of the time. There's going to be some times where it's a bit unclear, but most of the time we should be able to understand what your child is saying. They should be able to identify what things are used for. So for example, toothbrush. What do we use a toothbrush for? Brush your teeth. What do we use a fork for? For eating. So really simple things that they use every day. They should be able to tell you what they're used for. They should be able to name a variety of objects and body parts. So, things like your eyelashes, your elbows, and name different objects around the house. So when you go outside to the supermarket, to the park, they should be able to use a variety of different words. So not just your nouns like orange and apple. They should be also able to use little describing words here and there, fast, slow. And again, they should be able to say pa, ba, ta, and da sounds. Socially, they will begin to play games with others, be it hide and seek, and they should also continue to demonstrate imaginative play. Like Kim and I mentioned earlier, putting a teddy bear to sleep, playing, cooking. They've got like a little kitchen set and they might, cook up a meal and come and give it to mom and dad, playing with cars and trains, making them go around the track and, pretending that the driver is stopping and go. They should also begin to play with other children and interact around them around like common interests. So for example, if they see another child that has a dinosaur in their hand, they might go up to them and say, oh, I have a dinosaur. Mine is green and yours is blue. And they will start to have those little mini conversations around things that they like. They also should begin to turn, take, and share. Sharing is a tricky one when it comes to children, but it's a good time to start. And they should be able to describe simple feelings such as happy, sad, or angry. And I guess a little tip from here as well is if your child is feeling sad or angry or hungry, you can label it for them. And that way, the next time it happens, they will know what that feeling should feel like. And they should also begin to put clothes on with assistance. So getting mom or dad's help to put a shirt on, or, you know, buckle up their pants, tie shoelaces, that sort of thing. By 4 years, they should be able to name most colors and shapes that they see around the house. And you can do this through books, through the different toys that you see, the road signs when you're on the road. And they should be able to hold a conversation with the adult or with their peers. They should be able to tell stories about what happened in the past or future. So, for example, if you ask them, what did you do at kindy today? Or what did you do at daycare today? They should be able to tell you bits and pieces about what happened throughout the day. They should be able, by 4, they should be easily understood by most people around them. And they should be able to tell you their first and their last name as well. At this age, they should be able to follow instructions with locations in it. So put the ball in the box, put the bear under the bed, put the blanket on the bed. So really simple things that have your location words like in, on, and under. They should be able to use pronouns. So your you, I, he, and she, and they should be able to make more sounds than what they were previously able to make. So this is when your k and your g come in, your f, s, y, and h sounds in words. And they continue to play games with in groups. But this time the additional bit is where if you've got simple rules in your games like hide and seek and tag, they will also try and do up their own buttons and put on socks by themselves. And they should begin to play cooperatively with other children. Sometimes they might need help from an adult, but they should begin. By 4 years, the literacy skills begin. Sorry, I'm just going to move that. There we go. They should continue to enjoy listening to and talking about storybooks. So, you know, this is when they'll probably start to pick up a storybook that they want to read at bedtime. And they understand that the pictures and the text in a book carry a message. So every picture that is being illustrated in the book will carry a meaning of what the character is doing. They should begin to identify familiar signs and labels. So when you're on the road, they should be able to identify a stop sign because it's bright and red and it's just got 4 letters in it. Or famous logos like McDonald's, the Golden M, the Golden Arches. They'd be like, oh, Mom, McDonald's. And then, or KFC. Or simple things like Big W, Coles is another famous one. And they should also begin to participate in rhyming games. So in the car, if you want to play a rhyming game with your child, oh, I see a cat. What rhymes with cat? And you can sort of help them with that. Nope.
So a few tips that you can use to help your child's speech develop sort of between 2 and 4 years is to use simple speech that is clear. So we don't want to use anything that's too complicated. At this age, we're still learning our basic concepts. So obviously going off and using some really complicated words will, you know, not necessarily be that useful at this stage. So we want to build and expand even further on what your child is saying. The more you do this, the more they understand that they can build more words, and you're showing them how to do that grammatically and in the right order. So for example, if they see plane, we could say a big plane flying. So we don't want to ask questions so much as provide statements as to what they're seeing. And again, we need to give your child that time to respond, and up to 30 seconds. They are learning now from this age. They've got a lot more words in their repertoire and they're learning now to order them correctly. So give them that time and space to do that. That will be wonderful. So at this age, your pre-literacy skills are continuing to develop. So we want to name colors, shapes, and objects, as well as numbers in your books. So you want to be choosing books that have numbers in them, choose books that have shapes, and you can name colors on almost every book. Most children's books are deliberately made super colorful, so you can name anything you'd like. It's not so much about the words in the books. Although they will become more important sort of towards the end of the 4, they will start to point to them and ask you, what does that say? And understand that they do say things. But at the beginning, we want to just name colors, name shapes, name numbers. So, oh, how many penguins were on this page? There are 3 penguins, 1, 2, 3. Now we want to start expanding on what they can answer as well. So asking simple who questions, what questions, and where questions will be really important at this age. So who went missing, or what did the penguin do, or where are they, are really important questions. Now, at the beginning of the 2 to 4, your child may have some trouble with answering these questions, but that's okay. It's just an opportunity for you to show them the correct answer or tell them the correct answer. And next time they'll know how to answer that question. Towards the end of the 4, we expect them to be able to answer some of these questions. But again, this is still a learning experience as of while you do it with your child. They love and they learn through play. We also want you to start encouraging your children to guess what's going to happen next. Because in life, we use that skill across the board. We guess what someone else might say. If we use a particular behavior, we can usually predict what that behavior is going to result in, sort of in a reaction in someone else. So if we can start doing this right now, it would be really helpful for both their social skills as well as their literacy skills as well.
And by 5 years, your child should be able to maintain a long conversation with you. And this is also the stage where they ask why for pretty much everything that they see. And that's a really good opportunity to, model good conversation skills for your child, good turn taking, waiting for someone else to finish talking before you finish, before you start talking again. And, have a conversation about pretty much whatever is happening in front of them right now. They might ask you, why do we have to stop at the red light? And they will be more than happy to continue a very long conversation about why you have to stop at the red light. They should be able to identify opposites. So for example, oh, that's a big tree, or that's a tall tree, that is a short tree, that is a big ball, that is a small ball. They should also begin to understand similarities between objects. So for example, a fork and a spoon, what do they have in common? We use them for eating. Toothbrush and toothpaste, what do they have in common? We use them to brush our teeth. And they should continue to understand different location words. So you're in, on, under, behind, next to. They should also continue to understand a variety of different pronouns from the ones they knew before. So your his, your her, she, he, they, us. And the number of sounds that they can say in words in conversation should also expand. So at this age, we typically see the sh sound come in, the ch in choo-choo, the z, the l's, the v's, and in your words and conversations. They should also begin to use a knife and fork quite independently and have the ability to solve simple social problems like sharing and small conflicts, which typically happens in your group of friends. Someone got upset because they didn't share this toy with me. They should be able to solve small conflicts like that. They should be able to tell you where they live, such as their home address, and tell you their age as well. At 5 years, their literacy skills continue to develop. So they should make attempts to read and write. It doesn't have to be perfect, but they should show interest in wanting to hold a pencil or a crayon to write on a piece of paper. And they will, try and recognize the familiar words in books and help you read during bedtime, for example. They should be able to identify some letters and make some letter sound matches. So for example, the letter A makes the A sound, the letter B makes the B sound, and so on. They should begin to try and write meaningful words like their name and recognize letters in their name and phrases such as I love you.
So a few tips to help your child develop their speech and language at sort of the 5-year mark is attending to every attempt of conversation and acknowledging their efforts. Particularly when they are frustrated or upset or having a really big emotion. This can be really quite tricky for kids at this age because they're not quite in control of their emotions. They're still learning. So making sure you pay attention to them and helping them through these situations will be really important. Describing is really important, and talking about objects, their locations and their features is going to be really important. So this is a bit more advanced than anything we've talked about so far, but particularly the locations is a really tricky one. So describing where things are located will be really important, because that's a really tricky one in English. I can say I came up on the plane, but I wasn't sitting on the plane. I was inside of it. The words are in my book, but they're on my page. So English makes that a really tricky concept for us to learn. So the more you talk about that, the more you will help your kids. So you can say, you know, the car's driving on the road, we're in the car, let's get in the car, let's go for a drive too, we're going to turn left here, we're turning right here. Discuss all of those lovely location things, and they'll be wonderful for your child. Describing an object and its features as well. So describe whether it's dirty, is it old, is it new? And describing what it does is going to be another really big one. And that helps them develop that skill of why two things might be alike, or what is an object used for. And they'll learn almost all of that from you. So encouraging your child to give directions is another one as well. So it's not about just what they understand, but it's about what they can say as well, because that's equally as important. So sit back when you're doing something with your child and say, oh, what should we do? And give them the chance to give you the directions. You know, at first it's not going to come out perfect, but that's okay. You can always correct it for them. When we say correct it for them, so if they say, you know, they want you to put the block in box, you can say, oh, red block in the box. You can expand it for them and repair it for them at the same time, which will help them know exactly what to say next time. Talking about what happened next is a really big one at this age, particularly with your literacy skills. So at this age, your child might even be at prep by now. And part of those skills at prep is they will ask them to begin telling what has happened in a story, and even predicting what is going to happen next, and reading between the lines as well. So why do we think that might have happened, even though it might not be written directly in the text? So you want to encourage your child to identify some of the letters and its sounds in the book. So usually those letters that they know are the ones in their name. So that's usually where they start, because their name is the most important part to them. So even if you start there with the letters in your name and begin to expand as they grow their knowledge, if your child can read, sit back and let them have a go first, and just step in when they need a bit of help. And encourage your child to tell you what is happening in the story after you've read it. So take that little extra bit of time. Depending on your child, you might need to ask them to tell you after every page has ended. And some children can tell you after the entire story is done. This is a really important skill. So what we do in a retell is we tell something that's happened in the past. We use retell skills in everyday life. When we meet up for a coffee with our friends, even as adults, we'll tell them what we did yesterday or what's been happening lately, what we plan to do in the future. And that's how we build relationships and maintain them with our friends. Being able to do a story retell is super important. One, for being able to understand what is in the text and not just read it. And two, to be able to build those lovely communication skills to build friendships in the future. So in general, we've got a few tips that we'd like to go back over, because these ones, it doesn't matter what age your child is, will be really important. And if anything's taken away today, these are the ones we think would be the most important for you guys today. So expanding on what your child is saying is huge. It doesn't really matter what age group it is. If you've got a 1-year-old who's saying bot for bottle, expanding would just look like saying the word bottle correctly for them. If you've got a child who's beginning to combine 2 words together, that would look like just adding a 3rd word. And that would be so important. No matter what age your child is, that will just help them move to the next level, show them what's expected next and how they can build their language. Talking about what you are doing is also incredibly important. That allows us to attach what we're talking about to real world examples, which is the quickest and easiest way to learn about our language. Anyone who's learned a second language will know that that's really important, that when you sort of have the objects in front of you, you're watching people talk about it as they do it, you'll pick up language so much faster. And repeat, repeat, repeat is another one we cannot say enough. So it might feel like you're a bit of a broken record, but the more you say something, the more opportunities your child has to recognize that, say, if you're cutting, that word equals cutting. So repeat as often as you can for your child. Some general tips for social skills is playing people games. So toys are important and they're great for learning and playing and engaging with your child, but you are the most important person in your child's life. The primary caregivers, their siblings, the people around them are the most important people. So playing people games. So they mean peekaboo, they mean tickles, they mean chasey, tiggy, piggyback rides, anything that you can do where you're involved and there's a turn taking. So you say peekaboo, then you hide and you wait, and then you'll to peekaboo again. So it gives a chance to go back and forth. Even when you're tickling, you tend to tickle your child, pause and wait, and then tickle again. And without realizing, we do those back and forth things with our children to teach because it's built into us. So playing those lovely people games builds your social skills so amazingly. Talking about other people and how they're feeling is really important, and particularly if it's a consequence of your child's actions. So if your child was to hit or bite, which they all go through that stage, talking about how they made that other person feel is really important, particularly if they could see that other person. So if they made the other child cry, it's a really good opportunity to talk about the fact that that child is sad, and they're sad because you have bitten them. That gives them a good idea that their actions have a consequence outside of themselves, and they can then build their social skills to understand later in life that when I do something, I can positively or negatively impact someone else. And label your child's feelings when they're having a big emotion. They are tiny, they are little, they don't know what they're feeling. They just know that they're having a big feeling. And they can be really, that doesn't need to be just negative emotions. They can be positive ones. I can see you're really happy right now. You're really excited to tell me about what happened at school today. Come tell me. Or I think you're feeling a bit angry right now. How about we take a deep breath and we can talk when you're feeling happy again? That will help your child when they feel that big emotion again. They'll start to associate that emotion with what you're labeling it to be. And that will help them grow sort of as adults. Beautiful.
And just some tips to help with child's literacy skills as well. So read together every day as part of a routine. This is such a beautiful time if you set aside, just 20 to 30 minutes in your day to read with your child. It's a beautiful bonding experience, and it also gives them the opportunity to, expose themselves to more books and early literacy skills at that age. And when you're reading to your child, draw their attention to print, that is in the book. Trace your finger along to the words in the book, and that way they will know, okay, we start reading from the left to the right. You can draw your child's attention to print in everyday life as well. So your traffic lights, like your traffic signs, that say stop. Store logos like Big W and Woolies and Coles, and food jars as well. So the different brands on the food jar, jam, for example. Sing songs with lots of rhymes and play rhyming games. This will again increase the opportunity for your child to learn how to rhyme, which is so important in building those later literacy skills when they learn how to read and write. Be interactive when you're reading to them. Talk about the pictures in the book. Most children books have lots of drawings, lots of images in them that carry so much meaning in those books, that there's so much to talk about even if you're not reading those words. You can talk about how the character is feeling just by looking at the face, their faces, and you can talk about what the character is doing based on what is being drawn. You can talk about what the character might be feeling, as I said, or what could happen next in the story. So before you reach the end of the story that tells you the conclusion or what happens right at the end, you can give your child the opportunity to guess what might happen next. And this will improve their ability to predict in everyday life as well. You can point to the words and pictures as you read, as I mentioned earlier. When you're reading, use a fun, engaging voice. It helps your child pay attention and engage with you throughout that whole process. It keeps things interesting. It keeps things fun. Feel free to read what the character might be saying in a specific voice, or if there's a monster in a story, use your monster voice if you have to. Encourage drawing using paper, crayons, finger paints. This will again give your child the opportunity to build the interest into holding a pen and pencil when they learn how to write when they get to school. Encourage your child to describe or tell you a story or about the drawing that they just did at kindy or daycare or even at home. That will expand their ability to come up with a start, a middle, and the ending when they're trying to tell you about their day.
Awesome. Beautiful. So we thought we'd go through a few books because this is a common question we get, books that you can use to grow your child's development. Now, all the books that we have on the screen now are currently with First 5 Forever. These are under their Little Books for Queensland awards at the moment, and they are all gorgeous little books. And so they can be found at your local library at the moment. So feel free to pop in and pick them up. And they can also be, I've discovered, downloaded on their website as well. We do prefer the book form because when they are downloaded, they usually put on an iPad, and iPads can lead to a bit more distraction and less learning. So the book form would be the most ideal for your child. So of these books, we've picked out a couple that we think would be really useful for a couple of different age groups, and we thought we might go through and explain why we would choose those books for those kids. So the first one here is our little alphabet book. Now, this one here is the Little Queenslanders Alphabet Book, which is so sweet for the Queenslanders. It's got some really lovely language about the world we live in and our little location here in Australia. And it goes through all of your different alphabets. So even if you have a little-y, this one is really good because it has not too many words per page. And it's got some really wonderful and colourful pictures. So you can use this one for your letter concepts, if you'd like to. You can also talk about different words. It's got some fun sounds in it. You could count your different ants per page. You could talk about why this one is a different color to these ants. What are the ants doing? They're doing some pretty funny things. One of them's taking a photo. Some of them are eating some grass. But you can talk about what they're doing and even where they might be. And so each one of the characters is doing something really differently and different interactive things. So you can go all the way from just naming the animals, which would be great for your little tiny ones, all the way up to describing what they're doing, how many there are, and the letters. So which is why we thoroughly love that book. We've also got this one, which has some amazing sounds in it. So this one we think for the little ones that are a little bit more active, they usually love it when you use sounds like shush, bang, clang, all of those things. And this book has some amazing versions of that. So you don't even have to think of your own sounds. It's all written in there for you, which is wonderful. So for example, your first page has bumping and banging in it. And you guys can make those sounds be as silly as possible, use as many voices, but it also has lots of images and pictures and things like that for those who are a bit older as well. So this one here, we thoroughly enjoy because of those fun words. And look at the pictures, they're gorgeous. So I think they'll be really engaging. We can talk about locations. This one is upside down. There are 3 bats. What are they doing? Oh no, this one looks like he's stolen his mango. And we've done all of that without reading a single word. As your children get older though, the words will become important because they'll be learning to read as well. And your child will usually sort of take the lead on that one. They'll start pointing to words and ask, what did that say? And then you can work on that with them. And the final one that we picked out of the 3, these ones here, is this one here, because it's got some really good number concepts in it. The pages are relatively simple as well, but still have some really gorgeous images on it. So we've got 2 wandering whales sing. So we can talk about the fact that there's 2 whales. We have a big whale, we have a little whale, we have a mummy whale, we have a baby whale. So it really doesn't matter what age your child is. There's something you can have a chat about on every page. And if you've got one with a little bit less attention span, this one has less words to it, but still has tons of beautiful concepts that you can communicate about.
The next one is, this is one of my favorite toys, even as an adult, is potato heads. And the reason why I really like this one is it's got words, it's got body parts that, we want our child to learn and be able to recognize. It's got lots of early sounds that we want our child to be able to develop and use as well in their speech. So your in nose, your in arm, sh for shoes. That's by 5 they should be able to say most of these sounds. I also really like potato heads because it helps your child to develop the understanding of pronouns as well. So you can build a boy potato head and a girl potato head and introduce your pronouns such as your his, hers, she, he, which is really, really important. Some other suggestions that we have as well is if you've got blocks, you can use your color concepts, your location words. So put the red block on the blue block, put the yellow block under the blue block, for example. And you can also introduce your other describing words such as, tall tower, short tower, and the other toy choices that we also included was toys that can encourage pretend play. So little toys that have little characters of animals or people that you can encourage your child to, build conversations between those characters.
We also suggest no batteries. So if a toy has a battery in it, it usually then can only be used for that one particular purpose. So if it's a robot, it's just going to walk across the room. There is very little pretend play opportunities for that one. So something that represents real life, a doll house, a toy kitchen, anything like that, if it's got batteries, it's usually not the best toy for developing language.
Now, the key question we get is when to get help. And we cannot stress enough that early intervention is key. Trust your instincts as a parent, as a caregiver. If you feel like you're concerned about your child's development, talk to your GP right away or book an appointment with your local allied health speech pathologist. That way, if you've got any concerns, they can be addressed at the right time, because getting in there early, if you get in there early, your work later on will be less. So, you've got that time to build with your child, work on it as early as you can, so things will flow much smoother.
You don't need a referral to book an appointment either with your local speech pathologist. So you can just call up and make a booking if you are at all concerned. Yes. Yeah. So some of the frequently questions we get, and these are the ones we answer day in and day out, is when is too much screen time? So the current researchers say is 30 minutes a day is enough. And possibly no more than that. So the main reason behind that is because there's very little social skills and communication actually happening when a child is buried in a tablet. Having said that, we do understand that in today's world, being able to use a tablet is going to be a skill that they require. When they get to school, they do actually need to know how to turn one on and do simple things. So we're not saying abandon screen time altogether, but we do suggest trying to keep it to a minimum where possible, because even if it's just allowing them to have the space and time to play with blocks by themselves, they'll learn a ton more than they would potentially using an iPad or watching TV and things like that. And the other one is, who is the most important person in my child's life? And that is you. If you're sitting here watching this, that's likely because you are the primary caregiver of a small child, and that would make you the most important person. They will learn majority of what they learn from you. Beautiful. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it over to question time now. So if you guys have already submitted questions, beautiful, we should be able to see them. If not, please feel free to hop on, type any questions that you can see, and we can go through them now for you guys. Beautiful. Sorry, just trying to find the questions. There we go. Beautiful. Okay. So our first question that we've got is what to do if your child has lazy speech. So if not, it isn't usually lazy speech that your child has. Typically what happens is we get kids who are having trouble with certain sounds and they haven't potentially developed as they should have. So what I would suggest is simply, if you are worried, have a look back. The video will be available soon. And you can see whether your child sort of has fallen behind and isn't saying certain sounds, and book an appointment with your local speech pathologist and they can help you out. This is something we deal with day in, day out, helping children develop sounds that have just fallen a bit behind. We also suggest too, it never hurts to have their hearing tested. So odds on if you try and book an appointment with us, that's one of the first questions we're going to ask you is, have you had your child's hearing tested? Never hurts to get that done. Always a great thing to test with your little ones. So I would definitely do that and book an appointment with your local speechy, and they can help you out.
The next question we got was, are there any medical rebates available either via Medicare or private health? So yes, if you do have a Medicare card, you're more than welcome to go to your GP. You have to get a referral, and they will give you, it's a document called Team Care Arrangement, and you get up to 5 sessions for speech pathology that will give you a $53.80 rebate from the full amount. If you do identify as Indigenous, you get an extra 5 sessions to that as well. And of course, with your private health, it would depend on what your level of private health covers, and it should tell you on your policies.
Beautiful. We've got another little question about a toddler here that has some issues potentially with ongoing ear infections, and it looks like that he isn't saying that many words, but he does use his hands a lot to communicate. So we do see that a lot in some children where they'll be really good at pointing at what they want. They're really good at pointing at what they want. They'll be really good at sort of gesturing they want up and all of those sort of things. But they'll have trouble potentially using their words. So if you do have a toddler that is sort of over the age of 1 and hasn't said a single word, and you've reached the age of 2 and they're not joining them together, I would suggest contacting a speech pathologist as soon as you can, because it may be that they might need a little bit more specialized help to do that. Particularly this mum has popped in her thing that she looks like she is doing all the right things. She's already saying what they need. I would potentially just suggest to this mum to maybe start using single words instead of a whole sentence when responding to her child. So for example, if your child isn't saying any words, then we try and get them to say one. So our example would contain just one word. So if we would like them to say drink, we simply use the word drink rather than you want a drink. They're not quite ready for that full sentence yet. So just a single word would be really useful for your child. And then once they begin to use one word, then we add 2. But if you are concerned and they are over that age, book an appointment. That would be really helpful for your child.
The next question we received was if there was an age to start, an amount per day that would be beneficial or otherwise for daycare and language development. Parents nowadays, parents lead busy lives. It is understandable that sometimes your child will have to go to daycare, but I think at the end of the day, what is most important is recognizing that you are still you're a key person in your child's life. So when you pick them up from daycare, talk to them, use all the tips that we shared, and it's a part of life really, and just continue on with that.
Absolutely. Even if that is that time, I know often some kids get picked up quite late and then it's rushed to dinner time and it's things like that. If you've got a little one that's still high chair bound, pop them in the high chair in the kitchen with you. And you guys can still be providing that communication development while they're in the high chair with you. If you talk about what you're doing with them, you'll usually find they don't fuss as much as well. If they are sitting in the high chair and you are having a conversation with them, they'll thoroughly enjoy that. That can be as simple as around bedtime. If you guys just sort of go to the bedroom 15 minutes earlier and read that extra book, or do a nice quiet play activity on the floor, all of those things can help your child. It doesn't take much. As long as you spend that little bit of time with your child every day, you'll find that it really helps.
I think that was all the questions we had.
Yeah, I think that's all the questions for now, but we will hang around for a little bit just to make sure.
That's it for now.
Yeah, that looks like that's it for now. If anyone does have any other questions, send them through. That's not a trouble at all. Yeah, beautiful. Sorry guys, technical issues. We seem to have worked it out though. Beautiful. So that's all from us today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And we really hope that we were able to teach you guys anything for your children today, feel free to continue sending through questions because we will be doing this again. We're also visiting the libraries with First Five Forever as well to do baby rhyme time and story time. So if you have a look on the Cairns Library website, you'll be able to find us there, and we do stay for an extra hour afterwards to answer any other questions as well. So if you didn't get to or you didn't have a chance to submit your question today, please do come and find us. We're more than happy to have a chat.
Sounds good.
Beautiful.
We really like to thank you all for listening and hope that everyone has a safe and lovely Christmas and hopefully a very good break as well.